Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Express. It is Kevin Tompkins. It's Nate Polvogt. Look, we are almost through one whole week of the NFL season. We got finally a data point. Nate, what's up, buddy? How you doing? How is your NFL Sunday going?
It has been awesome. The Broncos won. That was ugly. It was ugly, but they pulled it off. The Bills, it's been a little bit rough to watch them this evening, but yeah, it's been a good Sunday, man. Justin Fields balling out. You gotta love that.
Yeah, man, we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about everything. Like everything that has football will be talked about on this particular stream, The Express, bringing you our reactions from week one here. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to start with what I thought was a pretty intriguing game. Cardinals Saints starting the early slate here. 20-13, Cardinals beat the Saints by a touchdown in a game that was probably a lot closer than people thought, especially those of you who play survivor pools. It was definitely a struggle in the survivor pool game because the two chalk favorites, the Cardinals and the Broncos, held on by the skin of their teeth. But I was very interested to see because the Cardinals are pretty status quo when it comes to their, target distribution. It's going to be Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride, and that didn't disappoint. Marvin Harrison, 5 for 71 and a touchdown. James Conner had a touchdown through the air as well. Trey McBride, 6 for 61, so nothing really different there. James Conner had only 12 carries out of the 27 rushing attempts by the Arizona Cardinals. Trey Benson also saw 8 for 69. Very, very efficient. We're not downgrading James Conner by any means, but it is very intriguing for the contingent play. If something were to happen to Conner, Conner hasn't been a picture of health, but it was nice to see Trey Benson get on the field a little bit more because certainly than he did last season. But yeah, 8 for 69. Pretty intriguing.
Yeah, this game was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I think we all assumed that if New Orleans could put 3 points on the board, it was a victory for them. Spencer Rattler didn't look awful. I'm not going to say he looked good. I'm not saying you should go out and roster him in any sort of fantasy format. He looked better than I thought he was going to look. And with the Trey Benson stuff, here's what I will say about this. I think there's a chance that he starts getting more and more, and we see Conner getting a little bit less and a little bit less. Conner stays involved in the passing game, obviously. I think Trey Benson might be the guy who takes over the run game in this Cardinals offense moving forward.
And you're talking to the guy who will roster Trey Benson and roster like any crap running back if you got a chance at getting some work. Because James Conner's had a pretty strong body of work. Like last season, he's pretty analytically, as far as like missed tackles, stuff like that. I'm not like waving any kind of white flag. It's week one. It's nice to see Trey Benson get on the field. We could see it. We're looking at 44% of the team rushing attempts for Conner, almost 30% for Trey Benson. But Trey McBride, 97% of routes. Marvin Harrison saw 95% of the routes. So very, very nice to see there. And then what's typical with Arizona is they don't really they use some of their guys. Like Zay Jones had 54%, and he was out there on some of the 11 personnel stuff with Michael Wilson. And then they just kind of Greg Dortch was involved too. You have a couple of the tight ends, but yeah, they're pretty status quo for the most part. And then you have New Orleans, who we didn't really think much of during the off season and then in the drafts and stuff like that. But 13 targets for Chris Olave, 11 for Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson played almost every snap but like 2. Usually we're used to seeing last season Foster Moreau get mixed in there. He was not active. Jack Stoll, who's a pure blocker, was in there. So Juwan Johnson was in on every receiving snap. Obviously Rashid Shaheed, 9 targets. Yes, it was very interesting from what I did see. Spencer Rattler did look a lot better than he did last season. And so maybe we got to give some of these Saints guys a brief up, like a little skosh up. But it's nice to see Chris Olave earn targets and actually stay on the field. Alvin Kamara, 11 for 45 and a touchdown, only a couple receptions, which I think was very disappointing for, because I was playing him in DFS. I thought that was going to be a spot where New Orleans gets down, and they just throw to Alvin Kamara out in the flat. So anything you got for the Saints? Because, it's kind of what we thought. Juwan Johnson's the tight end one right now, as of right now. But any thoughts on the Saints?
I thought we were going to see Devon Vele get a little bit more involved. After the trade,
route.
Yeah, just not a whole lot of involvement from Vele. I do think that this Saints team's a little bit better than we thought. I think they might win 4 or 5 games, which still obviously not good. But with Rattler too, I think what you're saying with Olave, he's finally earning targets. Maybe Olave is actually fantasy viable. I know there were a lot of people that were taking him a little bit later in drafts. I stayed away from Olave. But if this is what their offense is going to be, I think you do have to give Olave a little bit of an uptick in value right now in fantasy. I think he's at a point now where maybe you're starting him every week until they give you a reason not to start him. The Kamara stuff, little concerning that he only saw 2 catches. That's got to change though, right? That's not going to be the norm through the season. We assumed he was going to be their entire offense heading into this game. That usage, I think, was an anomaly against this Cardinals defense. That's got to uptick here as we get more into the season.
Yeah, and it's not like they got the other backs really too involved. Kendrick Miller had 5 carries. Devin Neal only had 2.
Yep.
That's something where we're hoping that maybe one of those guys can get some carries, and that's totally fine. But just more receiving work for Alvin Kamara. But totally fine. They stayed in the game. I think they'll kind of take that as, hey, we played, with a pretty decent team in the Arizona Cardinals, and we're pretty close up in the end. So, I'm totally fine. Chris Olave, I mean, that was the thesis of the play. You were hoping that some of the efficiency could shine through even with the quarterback issues. 30% targets per route run for Chris Olave today. So certainly nice to see, because we know with the concussion history he had last season, it was very scary stuff. We know if he kind of be the same again. Very nice to see there. We can move on to the next game. The cover boy, I guess, of our graphic here, Daniel Jones, who looked very like another white Colts quarterback that maybe played about a decade and a half ago. Daniel Jones looked pretty good for the Indianapolis Colts. They beat the brakes off of the Miami Dolphins 33-8. At home, it was Jim Irsay. They celebrated Jim Irsay, and what better way to do that than to get a dub. At one point, Jonathan Taylor had like every single snap for the Indianapolis Colts. It was looking like 2006 Larry Johnson out there. End of the day, 18 for 71 and no touchdowns. Daniel Jones had both touchdowns on the ground though. Mop-up work for DJ Giddens. He ended up getting 12 carries on that. No, nothing to really talk about with the rushing game, but there was actually some, Tyler Warren was the bright spot here. And that's, I think, what we have to talk about with the Indianapolis Colts, because I was on record saying I wasn't sure if Tyler Warren was going to get the full market share. Ran 73% of routes today, 9 targets, 7 for 76. I mean, I think we got to look at Tyler Warren into like close to startable territory, almost start him if you have him. If not, go pick him up and start him. I think that's where we're at with Tyler Warren now. If this is going to be the norm, if he's going to almost replace Josh Downs, because that's kind of what it seemed like today.
Yeah, I did. Josh Downs had 2 freaking targets, 12 yards, which is something I was going to bring up as we got into this. I'm surprised, honestly. Michael Pittman got fed. Josh Downs didn't. We thought it was going to be the other way around. But now we've seen a game with Daniel Jones at quarterback. I don't think he's going to relinquish that starting job. I mean, he looked pretty good today. We have to start asking.
Take an injury.
Yeah. Is this a Brian Daboll problem?
Could have been. I mean,
very well could have been.
Get him indoors, and he's got a big target in Pittman. He's got an over the middle target that has athleticism. He's still. I mean, Josh Downs is still a good player. It's not like he's bad now. I think we just have to downgrade him a little bit, because the Andrew Cooper thesis of you want the top 2 target you want your tight end to be a top 2 target. Tyler Warren's looking like that, and the draft capital, only kind of cements that. So I don't think it's over for Josh Downs. It's not Jover by any means, but I think it's something at least for him to be concerned about. If you're rostering Josh Downs, I think you're probably putting him on the bench just to kind of be sure. You're not dropping him by any means. But
no,
I would be concerned.
It's something to pay attention to. If his target share is going to go down, if his usage and volume is going to go down, obviously that becomes a concern. But back to Tyler Warren, though, tight end 3 this week, 14.9 PPR fantasy points. The only 2 tight ends he finished behind are Brock Bowers and Jawan Johnson, tight end 1 on the week so far. We don't know what Dawson Knox is going to do in the fourth quarter of this game. You never know. He could bump up too. But, I was with you on Tyler Warren. I had questions about what his usage realistically was going to be, how much Shane Steichen and Nitti was even going to use the tight end position because of what we saw last year. But he's obviously the wide receiver 2 in this offense. I don't think it's even close at this point. If he can keep doing what he did today, Tyler Warren's a guy you're going to want to start every week. He will be a top 10 tight end if he continues to see this volume. I don't think there's any question.
Right. And then you look at Josh Downs, because he's pretty much a slot-only player and does not play into, he only plays in 11 personnel. When in the formation condenses, it's Pittman and Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce still had 82% of the routes today. Michael Pittman's your prototypical X. He's playing 88% of the routes. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be on the field all the time. But Josh Downs is the guy they bring in, obviously as a pure receiver, kind of like it's like the Jaden Reed kind of thing where his role is defined. But that's what's going to affect, because even though Tyler Warren, got 73% of the routes, you still had Mo Alley Cox involved. You still had Andrew Ogletree with 30% of the routes and 20% of the routes. Like, they didn't completely go away from like all those tight ends, but it was certainly condensed in a way that we have not seen since like almost Jack Doyle. And that was like, 7 years ago?
7-8 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
It was certainly. But yeah, over to the Miami side, like Miami put up that was a stinker. And Zach Wilson ended up getting into this game, which kind of should tell you that's some white flag waving. Devontae, they only ran the ball 12 times. Actually 1, 2, 3. They only ran the ball 10 times, not counting quarterback. Rushing attempts. 7 for 55 for Devon Achane, and then Jalen Waddle left the game. His second home. Some people have vacation homes. He's got
a blue tent.
Yeah. So, other than that, Tyreek Hill, you saw him on the sideline. Like, Mike McDaniel could be the dark horse of a guy that might get canned in the middle of the season. If this Dolphins offense is going to be, putting up a stinker to a, I would say probably an equal team in the Colts. Like, I think the Dolphins are like pretty good. They're probably like a 7-8 win team, but they look like a 2 or 3 win team today. I am a bit concerned as far as like the Miami Dolphins offense, if this is going to be what they're trying. Like, I have no problem with Achane. I think he's kind of independent of some of that, but especially with like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I have concerns.
Well, Jalen Waddle obviously loves the blue tent. It's his favorite place to be. It's his vacation home, his home away from home. But Tyreek Hill pitched a fit on the sideline today. We're already seeing attitude problems there. This doesn't seem like, and you saw it today, I think, in this game, was that this isn't a good locker room. This isn't a healthy locker room. This isn't a happy locker room in Miami. Those kinds of teams don't tend to play well. Tua looks washed. All right? Tua does not look like a good quality NFL quarterback. He looks like at best a backup level. And we saw it today. I don't know why they didn't run more. Really 10 carries outside of the quarterbacks. You give 1 to Wilson, 1 to Tua. You're not going to win games, especially this Miami team that needs to be able to run the ball in this division. You're not going to win games if you don't run the ball. I can't imagine we don't see Achane north of 15 carries next week. Like, his volume's got to go up. It has to. There's no way around it.
I mean, he just has to get total opportunities. He's like in that Kamara where, he needs another back to play off of him, where he doesn't have, that's just not sustainable. We saw it last season where he got a bunch of volume, rushing the ball. And, we've seen that with Kamara too, where the one season he ended up getting like 225 rush attempts, his efficiency cratered. So
Sure.
to keep him fresh, like what HN had with like Mostert, that's what you want. You want an Ollie Gordon. You want a whoever playing.
But you got to get Ollie Gordon more than a carry, man. Like,
well, that was they were behind the 8 ball as far as like the game script anyway.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's
and they had all their guys out. Like Tyreek Hill only had like 65% of the routes, something like that. They got 4 guys out quick. Yeah, 61% of the routes. Jalen Waddle's in and out of the lineup, but still was like at 60%. Like they had packed that in pretty quickly. So I mean, I'm not looking at the routes or snaps or anything like that. It was kind of a lost cause game for the Miami Dolphins. But speaking of, we need to run the ball more. The Las Vegas Raiders, they played the Patriots, and they got a nice win on the road, 20-13, beating the New England Patriots. Geno Smith, 362 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Story of the day, though, Brock Bowers, with leaving the game with a knee injury, had knee and palpitations, but he did speak after the game and said he wanted to go back out there, and could have gone back out. So he said he's good, paraphrasing certainly, but a sigh of relief, because I was ready to just say, okay, we're on to 2026. But Brock Bowers 5 for 103 on 8 targets. Jacoby Myers 8 for 97. Trey Tucker scored a touchdown, 2 for 54. The passing game was pretty good. Geno Smith had a couple hiccups. He had a really, really bad interception. I believe it got tipped. But other than that, Ashton Jeanty, 19 for 38. Got a touchdown on the ground. I kind of salvaged today, but 34 pass attempts and 24 rushing attempts. And the disparity was a lot wider than that too. So they need to figure out what they can do with Ashton Jeanty, because this, 2 yards per carry, maybe not prioritizing the run enough. Not great, but got him a win today.
Yeah, I can't imagine he's going to continue to get 2 yards per carry in this offense. First game, first time out of the gate, and this Raiders offensive line isn't good, right? Like, it's not a top 15 unit in the league. So there's going to be some work that Jeanty's going to have to do. But at a certain point, this offense is going to revolve around Ashton Jeanty. It has to. If they want to have a chance in the AFC West, it's going to have to. It's going to have to be Jeanty and Brock Bowers. That's just what it's going to have to be. Yeah, and man, my butthole puckered a little bit when I saw Bowers get hurt and come off the field. It was not a fun feeling. No. As somebody who's got him rostered a lot, but good news that he's going to be all right. This was an overall interesting game on the Las Vegas side. I think I saw mostly what I expected out of this team the first week, except for Jeanty. I mean, you'd think with 19 carries, with the skill this kid has, he would have been over 100 yards. So, but I'm sure we're going to get there, and I'm not panicked about it. But I am excited. Jacoby Myers is a realistic fantasy asset, it appears, and he's going to get volume, and he's going to be worth probably wide receiver 2 most of the season. I think you can reliably fire him up, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jacoby Myers was pretty solidified as a fantasy option anyway. Second target in the Raiders offense that figured to get a lot better. The big prevailing kind of thing of the day was Brock Bowers rotating in and out with Michael Mayer and Ian Thomas, the block, managing Brock Bowers' routes and snaps, which I don't think is certainly going to hold for much longer. I mean, I know he left the game, still ended up with 63% of the routes, which, that's not what you want. Though, Brock Bowers is going to be awesome. I mean, the fact that you got 8 targets still out of that, I mean, look, dude had 4.12 yards per outrun today. I mean, that's going to get inflated if the dude's only going to play 60 to 70% of routes. But now, like, all the boomers will say, oh, well, he left the game, he got hurt, maybe he does need to get his snaps managed, maybe he needs to switch out with Michael Mayer. And to that I say no. But yeah, Brock Bowers would be great. Just need to get on the field more. Michael Mayer, like, sure, you can do your best Foster Moreau impression. Dante Thornton on the X receiver side, 62% of the routes, 2 for 45. Trey Tucker ended up getting a touchdown and played a ton, 93% of routes, but those aren't realistic fantasy options. Going over to the New England Patriots side, though, Drake May, 287 yards through the air, 1 touchdown and an interception. Some interesting stuff in the passing game because he spread the ball around to a lot of receivers. But Kayshon Boutte, 6 for 103. Hunter Henry, 4 for 66. Diggs, 6 for 57. Trevion Henderson, 6 for 24. So he's definitely force feeding to some of the guys there, especially Boutte is the most intriguing, or not intriguing, but it's almost surprising, I would say, considering. But he has been their prototypical X receiver, has played a lot of routes over the last season and change there, and that did not really change. 83% of the routes and led the New England Patriots. Diggs is going to be fine. I think it's pretty much status quo, but with the running backs is really where I want to talk, because we saw Ramondre, 39% of the running back rush attempts, I should say. Trevion Henderson got involved a little bit there too, but definitely was more involved in the receiving game. So I think we're laying a base of like the groundwork with his fantasy value coming primarily through the receiving end right now, and then ramping him up to get more touches on the ground. The play for him is efficiency. So you're always going to have Ramondre, but I'm at least encouraged to see him get 6 targets and catch all 6 of them and kind of salvage his day, and then add a little bit on the ground. Like, it's not great. RB22 still scored over double-digit points though in fantasy.
Well, what I'll say about Henderson, though, looking at, like you said, the efficiency, 5 carries for 27 yards, 5.4 yards per carry. That's pretty good. It's better than we got out of Ramondre Stevenson, 7 carries for 15 yards. But I do think what we saw today is that Henderson's going to, right now, he's going to be mainly focused in the passing game. Ramondre Stevenson's going to be the guy who's going to be carrying the rock the majority of the time. However, I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore that efficiency with Henderson. New England hasn't gotten efficiency like that out of a back. 5.4 yards per carry. Not that, obviously, he's not going to keep that up through the entire season. And if he does, he's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame, like, immediately, like Kyle Pitts.
He's Jamal Charles, if he does that.
Yeah, he's basically Jamal Charles. I don't know what this running game is going to be, I guess, completely. I mean, we have an idea today. Kayshon Boutte going off was interesting, but here's the stat that I find the most interesting. I love this one. Pop Douglas, 2 catches, -2 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, I've always been a miss me with Pop Douglas kind of guy, because I don't find any upside with him. Like, he's your prototypical like slot guy, and he'll pop up with a touchdown every so often, like he did today. 8.2 fantasy points. Like, you gotta kind of. He's gonna be your third target. Behind Diggs, behind Henry, and then if Boutte is gonna be a thing. Look, he had a pretty good week 18 too. I think he had a pretty high score. Kayshon Boutte did. So maybe he's building off that 139 air yards. So look, he's getting used downfield as well. Like, that's intriguing. That could be something where if you need a waiver wire wide receiver, I don't mind that. I don't mind going out, and it's like a speculative ad at this point.
Sure.
So I'm a bit interested in that. As far as if that's something where he's truly breaking out. We want to be in on these guys that flash, and then I wouldn't be spending your whole fab. I'd probably spend maybe 3 to 5%, but he's a guy that you want to at least keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to pull a Gabe Davis, has one big game, everybody falls in love with him, but I think this is definitely, with Boutte, it's something to pay attention to. He's only in his second year. Inefficient offense last year, poor coaching. New England was awful. Maybe this is a better team. Maybe it's a better culture. Maybe it's a better offense. Maybe it's better for Kayshon Boutte. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Let's go to apparently the game of the day. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Jets. Like, who saw that one coming? Because we had a team total of 38, and both the Steelers and the Jets almost hit that by themselves.
Yeah.
34-32. The Steelers beat the Jets in the Aaron Rodgers Bowl. Aaron Rodgers threw for 4 touchdowns, 244 yards. The ivermectin is working for one Aaron Charles Rodgers. Through touchdowns to Calvin Austin, Ben Skowronek, Jalen Warren, and Jonnu Smith on the day. Although that Jonnu Smith one was one of the vaunted Arthur Smith pop passes, which I do refuse to call a pass. But in the stat book, it does go down as such, so we must adjust. Jalen Warren, pretty much. I mean, he got the most carries, but Kenneth Gainwell, like, what are we doing with Kenneth? That was the Arthur Smith, little wrinkle that nobody was really accounting for. Caleb Johnson only had 1 carry for -2 yards. I'm not worried about Kenny Gainwell. I'm going to tell you that right now. I think that's going to adjust itself because he out-routed Jalen Warren today. 47% of the routes, 52% of the snaps for Gainwell today. So I'm not worried about Gainwell. I think that's going to be like they're trying to just get Caleb Johnson going to where they feel comfortable. We know Aaron Rodgers, track record with rookies, where he doesn't even want them on the field if they can't produce. So that's probably what we're looking at here. But Caleb Johnson, they put some pretty good draft capital into, and I feel like they're going to slowly work him in. But other than that, like DK Metcalf, 4 for 83, perfectly fine. Calvin Austin, 4 for 70, a touchdown. Ben Skowronek, his only catch was a 22-yard touchdown. Other than that, Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith split pretty much the entire day. They both ran 53%, 50% of the routes, split it down the middle. So I'm still not interested, like, really in either. That they're like break glass in case of emergency tight ends, but if you're 2 tight ends splitting one job, like I'm not interested. I'm sorry. But at least Calvin Austin is like mildly interesting, but he's still a deep league guy as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah, Calvin Austin is definitely a deep league guy, but it was good to see him. He got the 4 targets, he got the touchdown. Don't hate that. DK Metcalf played better than I think most people were expecting. I don't know why everybody left him for dead heading to Pittsburgh. I mean, he looked lesser than last season in Seattle.
Use my name, please. I mean,
Kevin.
By everybody, you mean me, because he was my wide receiver, like 46.
I had him way down there too, but I didn't think he was dead. You look at this offense in Pittsburgh, and this isn't what you didn't expect this today. Nobody expected this today. No. Aaron Rodgers has looked washed. He looked washed last season. Maybe that was just because the Jets were so bad all around. I mean, that very well could be what it was. DK Metcalf was supposed to be for dead. This running game wasn't supposed to do anything. And it's an Arthur Smith offense. So, of course, they were just going to irritate you and just do things that you hated. Thus, Kenny Gainwell. I mean, that's why we got Kenny Gainwell getting the 7 carries he got today. But again, that's not going to continue. Caleb Johnson will get his work. Jalen Warren is clearly the lead back here. I think DK Metcalf might actually be worth it in fantasy now. Just this offense looked so much better than I expected today.
It's competent. It was competent.
I didn't expect competent, Kevin.
No, that's probably the best. I mean, that's the nicest I'm going to be about it. I'm going to tell you, you can't make me be nicer about the Steelers and Arthur Smith. But I will be a lot nicer about the New York Jets because Breece Hall looked fantastic. Like,
yes, he did.
You talk about eye test stuff. Like, Breece Hall looked fantastic. 19 for 107, and then 2 for 38 through the air. Like, he looked pretty damn good. And then give me some, Garrett Wilson, the Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson, and Justin Fields looked awesome on the ground. As well, 2 touchdowns, 48 yards rushing to go with 218 yards passing and a throwing touchdown. Like, that's like top 6 quarterback stuff. Like, give me Justin. And this offense looked fun. The Jets look fun for like the first time that I can remember. Time. Well, because you go even back to like when they were contending with like Rex Ryan, it was Mark Sanchez and Sean Green and all these boring guys that it was defense. It was always defense. Even when they had Brett Favre, it was like still kind of boring. But yeah, so the Jets haven't been really that exciting, but I'm into this iteration of the Jets. But as far as like other stuff, through the air, Josh Reynolds ran some routes. That was fine. What, 2 for 18?
Yeah.
Tyler Johnson was in the slot. Like, it was very bare bones for like personnel for the Jets. So not much is really going to change there. Like the whole split we were all talking about with Brees Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis. Like Braylon Allen had a touchdown on the ground. Other than that, 6 for 9.
Yep.
So not really anything to shake a stick. That what's that, 1.3 yards per carry? No thanks. Isaiah, Davis had a couple carries, but that wasn't really worth much anyway. So yeah, I'm very much. I mean, not that I was ever out on Brees Hall, but he definitely put the faders. He definitely put them in the dirt today.
I wasn't worried about Braylon Allen cutting into Brees Hall's workload. I was worried about Justin Fields cutting into Brees Hall's workload. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. And this is a team that seems to be very pleased to just keep the ball on the ground between Braylon Allen, Brees Hall, and Justin Fields. And they're probably going to be a better team for it. I thought they looked really good today. Justin Fields tied for QB1 this week, 29.5 fantasy points. So I'd say that's a pretty damn good week for the Jets. He matched... Your 2 top quarterbacks this week are Daniel Jones and Justin Fields, folks.
Yeah, just exactly how he drew it up. We
talked about this all week. This is what was going to happen on every show. It's all we talked about. It's not
exactly. Let's take so we go from one New York team to the other. The Commanders and the Giants in Washington, 21-6. Commanders win. The Bill. Let's talk about Bill because everybody
Let's talk about Bill.
Let's talk about Bill because remember when everybody was talking about Chris Rodriguez being like, the savior, and Chris Rodriguez did this in the preseason. Well, he was a healthy and active today, and even Austin Eckler, had a little bit of run on the ground, but then Bill showed why he was the star of training camp and of the preseason. 10 for 82 and a touchdown. One catch was target, but you'll certainly take the 14.2 PPR points. Like, look, in this offense that's going to be scoring probably a lot more than this with Jayden Daniels. By the way, Jayden Daniels, 11 carries, 68 yards, 233 yards passing, and a touchdown. I mean, this offense is dynamic, and then you add in Terry McLaurin didn't do much, but he didn't need to because you had Deebo Samuel, who was 7 for 77 on 10 targets, led the team. I think Deebo
had a carry for 19 and a touchdown too.
Yeah, that too. So yeah, like Deebo has got to be at least in low end wide receiver 3 territory, I would say. In this offense, he's going to be cemented as the top 2 target. I'm sorry, Zach Ertz. I know you scored a touchdown, but I'm going to go with someone maybe 6 years younger in Deebo. No, I think Zach Ertz is only like 32, 33, but and Deebo's no picture. Deebo's like 29, 30 himself, but
a bunch of old men out here. Yep.
It really is, but it's good to see him healthy and good to see him productive. 84% of the routes for Deebo today. He had that 119-yard rush for a touchdown to add on to that. 22.6 fantasy points at top. He is wide receiver 4 right now as it stands. Not worried about Terry McLaurin at all. Other than that, Noah Brown got on the field for a little bit. Jalen Lane, Curtis Moore, whatever. But right now it looks pretty cemented and slightly condensed with knowing that we're going to get some better games out of Terry McLaurin, but you've also got Deebo and Zach Ertz. So those 3 with Jayden Daniels, like I'm great with that. Like I'm good with Deebo as if I have a flex play, just toss him in there and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, I'm seeing some comments here in the chat about getting Terry McLaurin more targets. They're going to get him more targets. They're going to get him more catches. I'm not.
It's 1 week. It's nothing to worry about. It's just. It is what it is. It's variance. That's it.
They didn't need him today. Plain and simple, they just didn't need him. I mean, the Giants are awful, obviously, and we'll get to that. But I do want to talk about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt because, again, everybody's like, oh, no, Chris Rodriguez, Austin Eckler. Oh, he's listed as a fourth running back on the depth chart. Oh, but the team obviously trusts him. He got the 10 carries today. He led the team in carries. He's had 82, well, close. Jaden Daniels had 11, but he had 82 yards and a touchdown. 8.2 yards per carry for the rookie. Obviously, a metric that can't keep up, but I think now we have to actually talk about, is he the RB1 in this offense? Because I think he is. Ahead of Austin Eckler, who only had 6 carries.
Well, see, the thing is, like, he's got to get on the field more because he only had 19% of the routes. He only had 33% of the snaps today. Eckler did best him in both of those.
Sure.
Jeremy McNichols was also on the field quite a bit for them too. Just under JCM, just under Bill. So I think we're going to get a little bit of a ramp up, knowing that this is what what Bill can do with some efficiency. So as we've been saying, efficiency will get you more opportunity. If you do it on limited snaps, you're gonna get more work. And yeah, we're gonna get more Terry. It's one game. We have 17 more, 16 more, I guess, for the fantasy season. So it's just one game. Not worried about Terry McLaurin in this offense. We saw what he did last season. It's whatever. It's nothing to worry about. I get it. It stinks that you didn't perform well this game. 2 for 27 on 4 targets, but we got 16 more of these. So all right, let's.
It's not over.
It's not. So this was my game of the day. I was hoping it would go. This is me as Andy Bernard in the car saying I wanted it to go better. Jaguars and Panthers, which I will say it did get marred a little bit. There was a weather delay for an hour. Like this game got over as
it was about an hour.
The late games got into the second quarter. Jags won at home 26-10 over the Panthers. Trevor Lawrence didn't look great, but he did enough. Well, Travis Etienne certainly did enough too. 143 yards on the ground, including a 71-yard run as well. But Tank Bigsby got put on blocks today. And I'm interested in, because Bashal Tootin only had 3 carries, but Quint Allen had 1 carry, but he got some work. He got some snaps mixing in with those guys. But Tank Bigsby, I think it took to the end of the second quarter for him to get his first carry. So I'm a bit interested in seeing how this is going to work out with Tank Bigsby, because he does feel like a guy that could be a healthy and active very soon if they're only willing to give him a handful of carries, and they got other backs that they're going to be working in. It's unfeasible to carry 4 running backs on game day like that. So he kind of feels odd man outish. So I mean, I'm not outright dropping him yet, but he's definitely, if we get something like this next week as well, I'm probably just cutting bait.
Do you have a number on red zone snaps for Bashal Tootin? Because I swear to God, every time I looked up, I saw him lined up when they were inside the 20.
I don't.
Okay, I'll have to look for that. But I think it's interesting. I mean, Tootin got 3 carries. Obviously, this kid's not going to light the world on fire right now. I still think there's a chance that he starts to get more work in this offense and more volume. But I kept seeing him in the red zone. They seemed like they liked him down there. When they did the reverse to Brian Thomas Jr., he was the blocking back on that play. And I just kept noticing him down there. So I think that's something to kind of pay attention to. But yeah, this Jacksonville offense looked decent. I mean, Carolina's not good. So you have to kind of remember that as we get out of this game. Don't get too excited about what you saw out of Travis Etienne, even though he was well over 100 yards. I don't think anybody saw that coming. You just got to remember, this is against a really poor Carolina team. They're not good. They can't really score. Their defense is atrocious, and Jacksonville took advantage of that.
Yeah, and also on the receiving end, the same kind of deal goes to Brian Thomas with Terry McLaurin. He had a rushing touchdown, 9-yard rushing touchdown. That was basically his day. 7 targets, 1 for 11. I'm not super worried. It's nice to see him get the targets. We're going to get the other side of the coin with that. A lot of short stuff for Travis Hunter today. Good to see Travis Hunter out there, 82% routes in game 1. So Very nice to see that. Brian Thomas, full 100% route participation. De'Ami Brown, 85%. So that looks like it's going to be that pretty cemented three wide receiver set there of Thomas, Hunter, and De'Ami Brown. Hunter Long got the touchdown out of the tight ends, but Brenton Strange was solidly involved, 73% of the route. So I'm intrigued there as far as a guy that, he's not going to have to really worry about any, not that he should, because Johnny Munt and Hunter Long are typically blocking tight ends. Hunter Long just happened to get the touchdown today, so not super worried about that. But I'd say it's pretty cut and dry there with the Jacksonville guys. Now, on the other side of the Carolina Panthers, we got some Ted McMillan stuff late in that game as they were trying to come back. It was kind of quiet for the Carolina Panthers today. Chuba Hubbard, 16 for 57 on the ground. That was pretty, ho-hum there. But other than that, Chuba Hubbard did get the receiving touchdown from Bryce Young as well, 3 for 32 on 5 targets. Xavier Legette continues to stink, 3 for 10 on 7 targets. Hunter Renfrow, certified public accountant, 2 for 11 on 6. It's pretty clear that this offense is going to have to run through Ted McMillan if they want to, because 88% of the routes, perfectly fine. Even Hunter Renfrow, 83% of the routes, and he's like a fine, like Romeo Dobbs-ish route-based upside play. But other than that, I'm staying away from Xavier Legette. I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole. Jatavian Sanders ran ahead of Tommy Tremble, something he did not do last season. Sanders had 2 for 27 on 3 targets, but 65% of the routes to Tommy Tremble's 33. So that was good to see that they're finally prioritizing Sanders over Tommy Tremble. Anything to add on Carolina? Because that's pretty cut and dry too, but at least it was nice to see McMillan just stay at the very top of the pecking order.
Yeah, seeing Tet get at the top of the pecking order. I mean, you look at this receiving core, who else was it going to be? It's not going to be Hunter Renfrow. It's not going to be Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette is very inefficient. I'm surprised that he's a guy that they're rolling out as their wide receiver 3, but what else do they really have? Chuba looked good. I don't think we're going to worry about Rico Dowdle really cutting into his work this year. He was pretty consistent and efficient last season. I just see that continuing this year. I think we saw proof of that today.
Yeah, that might be a situation where we see Jalen Coker come back and Xavier Legette might go down to 0. At that point. Right, because we saw Jalen Coker, come on last season little by little, and then ended up having a starting role pretty much through the last third of the season. We could see that kind of manifest itself a little bit more when he comes back off of IR, and that could be at the expense of Legette, who, remember, they spent a first-round pick last season for him, and he's been a complete bust in the 18 games he's played this year. Or in his career, I should say. Moving to the Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals, that was a scary game for the Bengals, but they ended up winning 17-16. Not the day that we wanted for the Cincinnati passing game, which, they have been the PROE stars of the last few seasons. Only 113 yards passing from Joe Burrow. They were pretty even in terms of their run pass splits there, because he had 23 rushing attempts as well. Chase Brown was inefficient but scored a touchdown. Joe Burrow's touchdown went to Noah Fant. But Jamar Chase 2 for 26. T. Higgins 3 for 33. Not worried. Bad game. They still came out with a win. Joe Burrow's historically been pretty bad in week 1. So yes, they were absolutely a letdown. But that's almost to be expected with the Bengals, considering how often they've gone out into slow starts to start the season. So not super worried about that. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. Never thought I'd say that, but let's talk about one of my biggest stances, Harold Fannin, who looks, if you were after watching this game and you had to draft again, would it be conceivable that you would completely flip the ADPs of David Njoku and Harold Fannin? Because I'd draft Harold Fannin like the 7th or 8th round, and Njoku at this point, I mean, you're gonna get better games out of Njoku, but the offense seemed to really run through in the passing game. Harold Fannin, Dylan Sampson through the
Yeah.
air. Like Dylan Sampson led the team in rushing. Jerome Ford, 6 for 8 yards on the ground. I'm in on Dylan Sampson. If this is where, I mean, we're not going to get 8 for 64 every game. That's not happening. But if he's at least involved in receiving game and is going to get 60 or so percent of the rushing attempts, I think we have to take notice at least. And then I think that might be enough to where if he gets some efficiency with that, especially on the ground, I think he can hold off Quinshon Judkins.
I think he can too, especially given kind of what the offseason has been with Judkins, and he just finally signed yesterday, I believe it was.
Yeah. Yep.
But he gave Sampson a window to take the job from him, and Sampson might have done that today between the rushing acumen and then getting involved in the passing game. And yes, I am with you on Harold Fannin. I have been a Fannin stan since I saw him in Mobile. I love the guy. He's ultra talented, and his parents were at the Fantasy Football Expo. Just ask Jamie Prague. He met him. We all did. They were around on one of the party nights. But this kid can ball, and he saw a pretty significant target share. 7 targets for 63 yards. That was above Jerry Jeudy, led the team in targets outside of Dylan Sampson. Yeah, I'd flip their ADP right now. I'd take Fannin earlier. I'd take Fannin much earlier. I wish I had more Harold Fannin. I'm glad for the Harold Fannin I have in Dynasty. I think he fits well into this offense. This is a situation where we're finally getting that big slot receiver tight end playing a big slot receiver and not just coaches talking about doing it.
Well, what was interesting is if you like really paid attention to the depth chart stuff for the Cleveland Browns, like obviously they had Jeudy and Tillman that were locked up on the outside. But the slot was really where, you know, you had questions about whether it was they're actually going to give snaps and routes to Jamari Thrash or Deontay Johnson. Obviously they cut him, but one of the outcomes was they run a lot more 12 personnel, and that's what they did. They ran Njoku and Fannin both together. Fannin ended up getting in the slot quite a bit, and Njoku was playing in line. It's great. Obviously, it's great for Fannin. I think he needs to be. I mean, if you need a tight end, he needs to be the number one waiver claim. And I'd almost, given what we saw today, I'd almost say he's the number one overall waiver claim. I mean, I think that's it's weird to say that about a tight end, but I think knowing his profile from college, had the best like tight end season ever last season at Bowling Green, and then parlaying that into 9 targets in your first NFL game, 7 for 63. My only issue with that is that he's probably not going to have Flacco the whole season. Like, I don't think Flacco being there for 17 games is sustainable. You're eventually going to get, you know, Dylan Gabriel or Shador or whatever the case may be. So you're wondering if that is going to hold. I think that's one of the biggest questions. But the fact that he's still got 67% of the routes as the second tight end on the team, and Njoku still was, you know, led with 85%, played more of an inline role, and he was like, okay, 3 for 37 on 5 targets, but it was pretty consolidated as far as the top guys were there, and you still had Jeudy with 8 targets, Cedric Tillman with 8 targets, Dylan Sampson 8 targets, Fannin 9, and Njoku 5, but everybody else was had 1 or fewer or 0.
Yep.
So I'm very interested in Harold Fannin going forward. I hope this is something he can build off of, because it's going to make the Browns a lot more dynamic. They were pretty fun today.
They were. I enjoyed that game. I really thought Cincinnati was going to blow it there. We got this in the chat, and I want to just get to this one real quick. We got Joe Hamilton wanting to know if we have any news on the Ingram and Kittle injuries. Nothing on Ingram. It sounds like, according to Lou Brunson, our master of social media in the chat, Kittle's is a hamstring. They're expecting at least a few weeks. He wants to know because he's asking about this. He's got both of them. Do we think that Harold Fannin would be a solid replacement for these guys if they miss any time?
Absolutely. Like that's, You're not losing anything by putting Fannin in. Like, as far as Engram, it was a calf injury. He tried to come back in the fourth quarter, and then that was it for him. He didn't play after that. So that's going to be something, we're going to get important news on tomorrow. I mean, Monday morning is usually like the hammer drops on like a lot of these guys. But I think Fannin is definitely more than capable replacement for either of those guys. They both are out for whatever reason in week 2, week 3. But I think you should be an ad no matter. So you're gonna have to compete with a lot of people. So that's why, like, fab wise, you're probably gonna have to go 15-20%.
At least 15, 20, 25. It depends on how hot your league is.
Yeah, and if you're tight end premium, you could probably double that.
Yep. And just for everybody listening or watching right now on ESPN, Harold Fannin Jr. is rostered by 0.8% of teams on ESPN. And on Sleeper, he is rostered on 6% of teams. So he's there. Unless you're in the 0.8% of ESPN leagues or 6% of Sleeper leagues, this dude is out there. I'm going to guess that Sleeper rostership is probably mostly Dynasty, Kevin.
Yeah, and that's going to jump up to about 25% by Wednesday. So,
if not higher.
I mean, that's usually a slow, because people look, he has like the scarlet letter of, oh, but what about David Njoku? This could be like a 1 week thing. But if you like really drill deeper into it, this is something that can be sustained. We have college production that, saw this coming. And then he got the opportunity in week 1 that certainly can continue. So, that's certainly something to definitely look for if you need a tight end, or even if you don't, go pick them up. The last game in the early slate, Tampa and Atlanta, which I thought this game was going to be, shooting out a little more, but Tampa Bay 23-20. Younghoe Koo misses a field goal. Like, that wasn't even close to tie the game. So that's not great for him or anybody. Would have liked some more out of the Falcons offense. Certainly. I was hoping we get overtime in that game. Baker Mayfield, only 167 yards passing with 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to Emeka Egbuka, who, if for some reason he is out there in a league, he needs to be the ad over Fannin. I would take, him definitely. Yes. 100%. He was probably drafted in like 90% of leagues, I would say, like typical home leagues. But yeah, so I mean, Emeka Egbuka was fantastic today. Let me pull it up right here because I have it. What's that? Yeah, 97% of routes today for Emeka Egbuka, 94% snaps. Hit me with Emeka Egbuka, like inject that shit into my veins. Him and Mike Evans, people called him Mini Godwin for a reason. And he pretty much showed that it was a very condensed passing game for the Buccaneers. Kate Otten wasn't really involved. Bucky was only a little bit involved. He ended up getting a touchdown through the air. But yeah, it was pretty much Emeka Egbuka and Mike Evans doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the passing game. But yeah, Emeka Egbuka looked awesome today.
He looked fantastic. He's one of the few rookie wide receivers that I wasn't really like fading. The situation felt great. Chris Godwin, we don't know when he's coming back. What are they going to? Jalen McMillan, you think they're just going to hyper target him? No, you've got Emeka Egbuka. He's a first round wide receiver. I know there were questions about why the hell did they draft another receiver when they've got Godwin and Evans. This is why. 2 touchdowns. Big day for Egbuka. He might be the rookie wide receiver who finishes in a wide receiver 1 tier this season. I could see it happening in this offense, especially because they haven't shifted off of what Liam Cohen liked to do, which was throw the damn ball. If they're going to continue to throw the ball, Egbuka becomes very dangerous in this offense moving forward. I mean, he already is.
Yeah, the new OC, Josh Grizzard, was the passing game coordinator last year, so they just promoted from within, and you're not losing much. I think that was a point of contention with the Tampa Bay offense this season, is that they wouldn't have Liam Cohen, but I don't think it matters as much because you hired from within and you brought up your OC from your own staff. So I think that's going to just be business as usual for the Tampa Bay offense. Yeah. Bucky, 14 for 37 on the ground, not much of a day for the rushing game for Tampa. And then going over to Atlanta, Drake London, I think had that touchdown attempt in the end zone. I think that was where he hurt his shoulder. So
it
that's going
was.
to be worth monitoring. But 14 targets, 8 for 55. It's nice to see Penix hyper target him. And then we got some, no Darnell Mooney today. So we had Casey Washington on the outside, and we know that Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, we know they're pretty condensed with personnel. It's a Rams trait. We see this with Kevin O'Connell. We see this with Zach Taylor, where the Falcons will just play guys almost every single snap. So Casey Washington saw every snap at like 1 or 2, 98% route participation. Kyle Pitts looked actually spry today. 8 targets, 7 for 59, and that could be a byproduct of because they didn't have Mooney, and also because for the ending stretch of the game they didn't have Drake London either. But that was awesome. Then Bijan Robinson, 7 targets, 6 for 100 and a touchdown. Bijan's awesome. That's why you drafted him as a top 3 pick in fantasy. On the ground, not really much to talk about. 12 for 24. But definitely made his bones in the receiving game. Right now, the RB1, not looking at the Bills Ravens game, I would say probably Derrick Henry is coming quickly to usurp that from Bijan Robinson. But I'm very much interested in, obviously Drake London was Matt Harmon's overall wide receiver 1. I think we're going to start seeing more of a step up here. If he's going to be hyper targeted like this, you got to start talking with him as like in Brian Thomas, Puka, Malik Neighbors kind of tier of wide receiver.
Yep, I'm with you. Just so we're clear here, Derrick Henry has definitely surpassed Bijan Robinson. He's got 31.8 fantasy points as we speak right now. Bijan Robinson, man, 6 catches for 100 yards. If he's not going to get used as much in the run game, and if they're going to split carries with him and Tyler Algier, which they basically did, Algier had the 10 carries for 24. Bijan had 12 for 24. He's got to stay involved in the passing game, but you know that they're going to keep him involved in the passing game.
Yep.
And Kyle Pitts, that just made me happy to see him actually getting used. He looked like a different player a little bit. There's a little bit more energy out of Pitts. I don't know. It felt different in this game. Maybe it's a Michael Penix thing. I don't know. Michael Penix looked all right. I'm not a big Michael Penix fan, but I thought he looked okay today.
Yeah, Penix looked pretty decisive. The Caleb McGarry injury is certainly going to help. Going to hurt the overall like upside of the offense. Just you lose your right tackle, especially as a left-handed quarterback. Like that's your blind side. So not super great there, but I think he'll do enough to at least be a serviceable, back like a streamer right now. Unless we see a lot more upside out of him, but yeah, he's a streaming quarterback as it stands right now. Let's get into some of the late games though. San Francisco and Seattle 49ers win 17-13. Christian McCaffrey gate. We saw week 1 where not very efficient, 22 for 69 on the ground. But 9 for 73, that's your vintage Christian McCaffrey right there. So, if we're going to get that, a little more efficiency on the ground, you keep that receiving role, you're right back into 21, 22 points per game from Christian McCaffrey. So as a guy that famously faded Christian McCaffrey just because of the lower leg injuries that he's accrued over the last few seasons, like, it is what it is. You got to take those lumps. But yeah, CMC, if he's going to get used like this, we know, especially if George Kittle's going to be out for any sort of time, they're still kind of working in Juwan Jennings because he didn't really do much in the preseason. Ricky Pearsall, 108 yards, by the way, for Pearsall. But look, San Francisco, like, give me that offense, especially if Pearsall's going to be balling out like this. But I think the real key is CMC looking like CMC again.
No, he looked like CMC again. And if he can continue to look like CMC, this is going to be a much better offense. The concern's always there, though, right? Something's going to happen to him because of that early usage in Carolina, where it's like 600 touches one season there, which is insane for any one person in the NFL. Yeah. That's why Le'Veon Bell got so mad. But yeah, there wasn't a lot to love about this San Francisco offense. Christian McCaffrey was the part to love. I loved Ricky Pearsall today, too. He had two really just like baller catches down the sideline. This is an offense that's going to trust Pearsall. And I think even when Jennings is back, and if by some miracle Brandon Ayuk comes back, I still think that Ricky Pearsall's kind of cemented his role in this offense as the wide receiver one.
Yeah. 90% of the routes for Ricky Pearsall today. Juwan Jennings was kind of a little bit limited, 5 targets, but only on 66% of routes. Probably see that come up a bit more. The Niners also dusted off MVS as well as Russell Gage. To talk about a name that we have not heard in some time. Russell Gage, certainly, since his days with Tampa and Atlanta, obviously, and Sky Moore. I guess they're just a rest home for not great receivers outside of Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings. Yeah. And then Kittle getting hurt. He still scored a touchdown. Jake Tongas ended up taking a lot of his work as far as like the receiving. Luke Farrell's like more of a blocker. So like Tongas was like the receiving threat, and he scored a touchdown as well. So that was at least interesting to see from there. And then over on the Seattle side, I think the big story there, besides JSN getting 124 yards on 9 catches on 13 targets, was the backfield split between Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, which not a lot of people saw coming unless you paid attention to like some of the preseason stuff and a lot of that chatter, because that was always in the back of people's minds that this could be more of a split than people think. And that worked out pretty much. I mean, Zach Charbonnet 12 for 47 and a touchdown. Ken Walker only 2 yards per carry, 10 carries, 20 yards. But Charbonnet out-routed and out-snapped Walker. 42% of the routes, 58% of the snaps for Zach Charbonnet. So I think that you're clearly downgrading Walker just a little bit. I think with like more positive game strips, you're probably going to see more Walker. But Charbonnet is just as equal a starter, I think, for fantasy purposes, where you need a flex and you have Charbonnet. I think he's a worthy flex as it stands right now.
Well, this is what we expected out of the Seattle offense last season, this backfield. We thought we were going to get a straight split between Charbonnet and Ken Walker. I downgraded both of them last season heading into the season because that's what we thought we were going to get. And then Ken Walker just kind of took over. Doesn't look like that's necessarily going to be the case. And again, it's only week 1. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about, we're guessing based on what we saw today. We'll see if these trends continue, but it really looks like this is going to be a pretty much split backfield. And to be honest, Lou or Kevin,
I'm Kevin.
You're Kevin. I know. I'm happy for Lou because his team won. He was down in it earlier before I came down here. Damn it. Seattle. What a great end to that Buffalo game, by the way. The Seattle
I just saw that.
Yeah, I think the Seattle team is about what we thought they were going to be. A somewhat condensed offense. I mean, you only had 5 guys get targets. Most of the targets going to JSN. We only had 2 targets to Cooper Kupp, or 2 receptions to Cooper Kupp, 1 to Elijah Arroyo, 3 Ken Walker, 1 AJ Barter. There isn't a whole lot to be super excited about. JSN, have you changed your mind about Sam Darnold? Do you think he's startable in fantasy at this point as a QB2, or do you see anything?
I think he's purely a super flex guy. Like, you can start as like a back end QB2, but I'm not. There's still offensive line issues. I think there's still offensive like schematic issues that they got to work out. There's not a lot of balance. I mean, look, JSN took 59% of the targets today. That's not going to hold. If you want a functional NFL offense, that's probably going to have to come down. You're probably going to have to bring some other guys along for the ride too. So it's great for JSN, but if you want like sustainable, offense, that's going to benefit everybody. It's going to benefit JSN too to get other people involved. Even though you're getting this, it's easily on the other side of the coin is 12 targets, 5 for 24. So that because they know he's getting the ball. So that's why you want proper target competition. Like Cooper Kupp ran 100% of routes, like cool, but only earned 3 targets on that, and
2
yeah,
catches, and yeah.
it's
This
not.
Seattle,
It's not
the
great.
Seattle offense is what I thought they were going to be. I'm not remotely shocked. I am surprised Elijah Arroyo had more catches than AJ Barner. I'm totally fine with that too.
Yeah, like AJ Barner is like a good, he was the starter 73% of the routes and 84% of the snaps. Like that's always going to be the thesis of the play. And then you get Arroyo on like receiving, like passing downs and stuff like that. And like the hope is that he ends up getting a little more work in the way that he kind of did with Noah Fant there last season, the way Barner kind of came on. Because that's what ended up happening there. You're hoping that's what you get out of Arroyo, but Arroyo is clearly a much better receiver than AJ Barner could ever be. Barner's more of the complete, 2A tight end versus Arroyo, who doesn't block, plays in the slot. But let's go to another late game here. Another game that we kind of thought was going to be a little more, 14-9 Rams over the Texans. Like that was a rock fight. I will say that. Puka Nacua went in and out and in and out and in and out of the of the blue tent, and still ended up with 10 for 130. Puka Nacua is like absolutely awesome. Devontae Adams 4 for 51, perfectly fine. They both combined for 19 out of the 28 targets in that offense. Everybody else either had 2 or 1. So I don't think I have to talk about really anybody else there. I'm good to see Tutu Atwell getting paid $10 million to put up a 1-catch 4-yard effort there. Kyren Williams is Kyren Williams, 18 for 66 on a touchdown. That's like the most Kyren Williams line there. I don't really think we have to talk about much of the Rams because it's pretty status quo. Going over to the Texans though, only put up 9 points. Did not score a touchdown on offense. Nico Collins 3 for 25. Like I think what was it? Dalton Schultz and Nico Collins tied for the team lead in targets. And then Dalton Schultz gave up a lot of the routes to Cade Stover as well. So I think this is an offense in terms of the passing game where it's very much in flux and they're figuring out what works. Obviously, Nico Collins works, but they still have 2 rookies in Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. They got to figure out some of the other pieces in their offense because they still have Xavier Hutchinson and Justin Watson. They still have all these running backs too. Nick Chubb, 13 for 60. And then obviously they mixed in Damian Pierce and Woody Marks and Agumba Wale. Like, I think I'm just at the point where, I'll keep Higgins on my bench. I'll obviously start Nico Collins, but other than that, I don't really care that much.
Yep. I just want to pop this comment up here, guys. Don't overreact. It's week 1. Do not trade Jamar Chase. That would be absolutely ludicrous, ridiculous. The Bengals offense will get better.
Unless you're getting like Puka Nacua and like, a running back or
Neighbors
something like
and 2 firsts. Yeah. And
you're getting Neighbors and Trevion Henderson. We'll talk, but other than that,
don't panic sell these guys. Just don't do it. This Texans offense was interesting. Nick Chubb 13 for 60. I think we saw today that none of these other running backs are going to get volume unless he gets hurt. Ogunbowale probably, to me, looked the best out of the other guys who were on the field behind CJ Stroud. Then with the passing game, looking at this 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, as far as catches, so spread out. I think you're right. They're trying to figure out what their identity is here. Nico Collins will be fine. He's going to be a guy who's going to start getting closer to like 10 to 12 targets a game, 6 to 8 catches a game. While this team figures it out, that might not be the case over the next like week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about with the Texans either. I think it was kind of sort of what we expected. A little bit less Nico Collins, probably a little bit less Damian Pierce than I think a lot of people thought they were going to see today. But other than that, it was about what we expected out of this team. I don't think anything was super shocking about this game today, other than the low score.
Yeah, very low scoring. It was a defensive, it was kind of a rock fight. So let's go over to the last afternoon game. That would be the Denver Broncos and the Tennessee Titans. Broncos win 20-12 at home. This is the other Survivor game that people were kind of sweating because the Broncos were the chalk in Survivor leagues. And kind of, I don't know, they really sweated it out, I guess. But it was interesting, certainly. I mean, I know Denver, they had to get a touchdown in the fourth quarter to get up. But anyway, Denver, 176 yards out of Bo Nix, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. They had 11 different receivers catch a pass.
Yep.
None of them were Pat Bryant. So
not one.
I think we can kind of check Pat Bryant off the list, at least for right now. My video rings true with, can anybody else earn targets outside of Cortland Sutton? I guess maybe Troy Franklin, but I guess also maybe Tyler Bidet is going to be. Look, this is going to be an offense in Denver that uses so much personnel that it's very difficult to pinpoint any other ancillary guy. And Lou has it exactly right. If you trust Sean Payton, that's on you. I'll be talking to Andrew Cooper about that very thing tomorrow on Clock Management at 12 Eastern. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, Denver is, to quote Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were. Cortland Sutton, 6 for 61 and a touchdown. Cool. Other than that, I don't care about any other pass catchers unless you show me something. Evan Engram, 3 for 21? That was like the only other option that could have been the second target, and even we didn't really get that. But RJ Harvey kind of looked like he was shot out of a cannon on that 50-yard run that he had. That pretty much made his day, fantasy-wise. And then J.K. Dobbins took a lot of the work on the ground, though, 16 carries, 63 yards, and a late touchdown. So Denver running backs rule the day. I have no problem rostering both, obviously. We drafted them as such, but I have no problem starting both either, especially Dobbins, who I know we're drafting RJ Harvey in the fifth round with the thesis that, he'd get us some catches and get more work eventually. But Dobbins is pretty awesome here as far as we know Denver wants to run the ball, and J.K. Dobbins is at least the early season, not workhorse, but like he's going to get the majority of the touches at the outset.
Yeah, and it was good to see Harvey get involved week 1. 6 carries for 70. Like you said, that 150-yard run kind of made his day. Yeah, this backfield's what we thought it was going to be. I think they're both rosterable at this point now. I think we're going to see enough volume out of both running backs that you can start them every week as well. I didn't know that was going to be the case after week 1, but it appears as though it is. My biggest concern here in this game for the Denver side of it was Bo Nix. He looked like he took a step back from last season. He made stupid mistakes. And I think he's the only quarterback I really felt that way about today. We're just watching him play. It's like, okay, this isn't the guy I thought we were going to get in Denver here this season. Hopefully he can turn that around. But if he doesn't, does it make you worry about any of these other assets in Denver? Especially like Cortland Sutton and Evan Ingram, if this is the Bo Nix we're going to get.
I mean, also Tennessee tends to punch up a little bit in terms of like their defense. Like I know their defense isn't like that great. But also like I'm totally fine with like chalking up. Might have just a bad game. Like it is what it is. I'm not gonna just write the obituary of Bo Nix after one game. I don't think we're not doing that on anybody. Except for I guess Xavier Legette. I think we can write that obituary certainly. But I'm not super worried about the Denver Broncos in terms of Bo Nix being able to support these guys. But it's just also it is what it is with the Sean Payton offense because it's Cortland Sutton and the rest. So I am very interested though. Troy Franklin, that could be an option too, because he did end up getting the next highest amount of routes. Like Cortland Sutton had 100% route participation. Troy Franklin ended up with 65%. So I think that's at least interesting. Marvin Mims also 63%. So I mean, that's more than like a lot of the guys did last season after Sutton. So I think that's at least worth monitoring. On the Titans side, though, historically, rookies in week 1, not great historically. I think Rich Rebar said they were one of 9 as far as like their record in the last 10 rookie quarterbacks to start week 1. So they're already behind the 8 ball. Passing game wise, you had Calvin Ridley with Pastor Tan on him. That was always going to be not great. Alec Eomanor had an awesome catch that didn't end up being a catch. So I guess we're counting those in our hypothetical fantasy scoring. But as far as like offensive stuff for the Titans, like Tony Pollard, 18 for 60 on the ground, that's about it. Like they didn't score a touchdown. Offensively, like they'll get better. It's Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Cam Ward's gonna gunsling. It's just gonna take some time. It's a bad draw for week 1 for them.
Well, and despite the stat line, I really honestly thought the Cam Ward looked pretty decent against a really good Denver defense. He stood in the pocket. He took some hits. He made some smart decisions to get away from pressure and traffic. Made some decent throws. I mean, 12 of 28, obviously on the stat line, that looks awful. But I got some hope for what Cam Ward can be even this season as a fantasy asset for like dynasty managers who maybe have him or wanting to start him, or maybe you're just a Tennessee Titans fan and you decided you wanted Cam Ward on your fantasy roster. But I think there's a point probably in the next 4 to 5 weeks where he becomes a viable, maybe QB2 start in super flex leagues. I think that's my biggest takeaway from this game today.
Yeah, like he was 12 of 28 passing today for 112 yards. Like that's not going to get it done. Offensive line didn't help him either. He got sacked 6 times, and Ward's not a mobile guy anyway. So yeah, I think it was just really a tough draw for him. I think he can certainly grow. He's got Calvin Ridley, he's got Chigakonkwo, he's got Ayomanor, he's got weapons that he can like at least grow with. So, I just think it was a bad draw. They'll get a lot, but as far as their last place schedule, it should soften up a little bit. So, not obviously not out on any of these guys in week 1, but just it is what it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep. So you know what? Let's just do we want to talk about the Thursday and Friday games while we're here too, and then we can get out?
Yeah, we might as well. Let's hammer through those before we get out of here.
All right. So Thursday. Of course, we had the opener. We didn't really get to talk about it, but Eagles and Cowboys 24-20. Jalen Hurts, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He's pretty good. I don't know if you guys know that. Saquon Barkley, the guy that put everybody in the dirt as a second rounder last year. Not as good, but still good. Still had a touchdown on the ground, 60 yards. But no passing touchdowns in this game on either side. They are who they are. We know the Eagles are going to run the ball with reckless abandon. They don't give a shit. They're 19 of 23. Jalen Hurts was passing the ball, so it was like just some efficiency. But other than that, like I'm not worried about the AJ Brown 1 for 8 game. Dallas Goedert carried some of the volume. He had 7 targets, caught all 7 for 44. But that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get the deep shot to Jahan Dotson. But it's gonna be an offense that's condensed to AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert most weeks. And then you're gonna get the ground stuff from Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. So it's nothing to really worry about. They didn't get a lot of volume, not a lot of fancy goodness in the game, but it just kind of is what it is, and they got a closer than expected win.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about AJ Brown. I thought the Jahan Dotson involvement was interesting, but I guess as far as the script went, it just made more sense to target him. Do you think there's any chance that he's somewhat? I know the answer to this, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I know people are wondering because people overreact to one game. Is Jahan Dotson fantasy viable, Kevin? No.
The third wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles in this iteration of the offense has never been. I mean, going back to Quez Watkins, going back to Olamide Zaccheaus, going back to Julio Jones, going back to Britton Covey, whoever you want to throw out there, it's a literal guys that just run exercise routes. It's not for target earning. There's been like no target earning unless like maybe one of those guys gets hurt. And we've seen AJ Brown and Devonta Smith get hurt at times. But even then, it just condenses down to the other two, whoever it is. So, yeah. I know Jahan Dotson was a first-round pick at one point, but the bloom is off that rose. I'm not touching Jahan Dotson.
No, there's no reason to. I just wanted to get that out of the way for anybody listening or watching if they were curious. No Jahan Dotson. But yeah, that was the only real interesting thing I think from the Eagle side of this when it comes to fantasy was the Jahan Dotson involvement.
Yeah, and even that wasn't that interesting.
No.
And then you have on the Dallas side with Javonte Williams scoring 2 touchdowns, probably 2 of like the 4 touchdowns he's going to score this season. 2 of them coming in week 1, 15 for 54. Like, okay, like that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
CD Lamb 7 for 110 on 13 targets, and probably should have been a lot better had he caught a couple of the other passes he dropped.
Yep.
Dropgate was certainly the talk of Thursday and Friday for CD Lamb. George Pickens, four targets, 3 for 30, whatever. Jake Ferguson, 5 for 23. Nothing really to talk about there, but just interesting of Jaden Blue being inactive, a healthy scratch
Yeah.
there, and then pretty much the offense running through Javonte and Miles Sanders on the ground. So Miles Sanders had that 49-yard rush, and then he fumbled, so that pretty much ended his viability if he was going to kind of build off of something like that.
Slime gonna slime, man. That's what happens. I want people to remember, if you're looking at what this Dallas backfield did on Thursday, please remember that Jalen Carter got kicked out of the game before even the first play for spitting on Dak Prescott. He's one of the best defensive linemen in the game right now. They're not running the ball like that if Jalen Carter's in. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Do you think Javonte gets another 2 touchdowns this year? I don't know that he does. I think this might have been his big one fun game.
I mean, in 16 more games, maybe he gets one here, one there, but I mean,
maybe.
Yeah, I'm just not interested in Javonte Williams. I mean, he looked like okay, but everybody looks okay in week 1 when he gets some work. We know he's been ravaged by lower leg injuries and catastrophic knee injuries. So, I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, I guess.
Sure.
With that, I feel like maybe they trade for a bat. I mean, I don't know how they get through the season with Javonte, Miles Sanders, and if they don't think of. My only thing with Jaden Blue is that because Hunter Lipke can act, their fullback, can actually run the ball. He is from North Dakota State, by the way. So shout out there. But he was a pretty good running back here for the Bison. So I'm thinking because Jaden Blue doesn't play special teams, that was a kind of a roster move versus like something Blue specific. Plus, he's also, I think, coming off an injury as well. So I think that was kind of a two-prong thing as to why he was inactive. So that's something to consider as well for some future prospects. I'm still holding Jaden Blue if you have him. If you need to cut him, like I get it, that's perfectly fine. If you have George Kittle and you need to get a tight end and you don't have any like roster flexibility and you have Jaden Blue sitting out there, like I get that if you need to drop him. But otherwise, if you can hold him, I would. That's like, I think he could still be the long-term option this season in Dallas as far as running backs go. Let's go over to the other Friday game. Chiefs and Chargers from Brazil. Chargers win 27-21. Of course, a rogue podcaster named Travis Kelce runs into Xavier Worthy and dislocates his shoulder. We'll see how long Xavier Worthy's out for, whether that's going to be a month or possibly longer. We haven't gotten really a timetable on that. But because of that, we saw way too much of Hollywood Brown. 16 targets, 10 catches, 99 yards. A very Jarvis Landrian performance out of Hollywood Brown. So
let's just call this the Will Fuller game. It's the Will Fuller game.
Don't you disrespect Will Fuller like that. Don't you do that. No, he has no reason to catch strays.
Well, but it is. It's the one he plays well in one game. Everybody, I'm sorry, Sammy Watkins, not Will Fuller. Will Fuller just doesn't have hands because they're always broken. Yeah, this is the Sammy Watkins game. He comes in, he plays one game, he's fantasy relevant for one game, then he goes back into the shadows for the rest of the season. That's what I think this Hollywood Brown game was.
Yeah, I think maybe. I think there's some like interesting kind of takeaways here because if we don't get, if Xavier Worthy's out for a period of time, like I think Hollywood Brown is like a perfectly fine pickup on waivers. And I do also, and I also think, interestingly enough, if they want some of the deep element and they maybe want to kind of try to manufacture stuff, I think Tyquan Thornton could be like a sneaky ad too. They
Yeah.
were definitely prioritizing getting him deep shots, and it's possible that they do work him in shorter. Because that was always the thesis with Xavier Worthy is the barbell approach, where you get him the short manufactured stuff, and then you also get him the deeper. We want those explosives because we haven't seen much out of them since Tyreek Hill left. Like that hasn't been a big thing in the Kansas City Chiefs offense.
Well, it doesn't need to be when you're winning without Tyreek Hill, and I think that we get caught.
But they're not winning. I mean, they didn't.
Well,
They didn't win this game.
Okay, they didn't win this game.
They won by the skin of their teeth in a lot of games last season too.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Like I am worried that like they need. I mean, now they're down Rashid Rice for 6 games. Now they're potentially out Xavier Worthy. Like Mari Cooper coming out of retirement to be the X receiver on this team. Like, what are we doing? I want to know what we're doing here. And it's kind of not great to rely on the run either because Pacheco hasn't looked great. They did not run the ball on Friday. Only what's that? Let me guess. 1, 2, 10 out of the 17 carries were designed runs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had 6 carries for 57 yards to technically lead the team in rushing. But other than that, it was Pacheco and Hunt. It was not great. So, other than that, though, like, the Chiefs just kind of hoed and hummed and didn't really do much. But I was very interested to see the Chargers with Justin Herbert pulling out a 13% pass rate over expected in that game. With a Greg Roman offense, Jim Harbaugh pulling out a 13% pass rate over expected. Like, that's kind of insane to see. 318 yards and 3 touchdowns for Justin Herbert. Quentin Johnson with 2 touchdowns. Keenan Allen, they dusted him off for a touchdown. 7 for 68 to lead the team in targets as well. Ladd McConkey, 6 for 74. So a lot of good days for the, big pass catchers there. I don't want to say we've turned a corner on Quentin Johnson, but they seem hell-bent on just making him like a thing. And then granted, they have first-round capital invested in him. And maybe that's like my bias of like his rookie season where he was just like an abject, terrible player. But I mean, maybe Johnson's taken kind of a little bit of a turn here. Keenan Allen, I don't know if he really should be getting the work he's getting. And it's almost at the expense of Ladd McConkey. Yeah. But I mean,
which is not something I was worried about. I wasn't worried about that. I didn't think Keenan Allen was going to take anything away from anybody. But here we are.
Yeah, because Keenan Allen, 78% routes. I mean, Ladd McConkey still led that team in routes with 93%. Like, that didn't change matters. That was pretty much your 11 personnel there with McConkey, Quentin Johnson, both on the outside, and then Keenan Allen in the slot. And then you also have the luxury of moving Keenan Allen on the outside as well, and then putting McConkey out at flanker, doing all sorts of stuff. You have some flexibility there with Quentin Johnson being the X receiver. But, that trio is at least moderately intriguing. But, we all want McConkey. I don't think we want too much of Johnson and Allen. I think there's going to be some very low valleys there. I think we've seen like the peak of both of those guys, and that's in a game where they're pushed the whole way and they're going to pass. I just don't see that being the case too often, especially if Amari and Hampton can get going. He looked good like in a couple of the runs, but ultimately, 15 for 48 didn't look super great. Najee Harris only had a carry. So yeah.
But hey, with that one carry, he averaged 5 yards per carry. Efficiency, baby.
With one eye.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. And then, who had it was Tyler Conklin who had the big catch, for the tight ends. I mean, Aronde Gaston would have scored a touchdown, but, I'm just saying.
Oh, you're not wrong.
But, yeah.
I was hoping for a little bit more Will Dissly love, but we didn't get it. It's fine. But I did like what we saw out of Hampton. I like that he was the lead back in this game. I like that they gave him the volume over Najee Harris.
80% snaps out of Hampton, 61% of the routes.
Well, I thought it was curious when there were so many NFL fantasy analysts and just like fantasy football fans, like, oh, guys, it's not going to be Omari and Hampton. They've got Najee Harris. He's the better back. He's going to get more carries, even after the whole fiasco with the eye injury and everything. And no, it's still going to be Najee Harris. They're going to do other things. They're going to work him in slowly. I don't think 15 carries is working a guy in slowly, first of all. And second of all, Najee Harris only had one. I don't think this is really a competition in this backfield. I think this is Hampton's backfield to lose. He's going to have to make a big mistake or do something stupid for Harris to come in and take a lion's share of these carries. I'm happy with my Hampton shares. That's what I got out of Friday night for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, it matters that a team goes out and spends a second round pick on a running back. Like,
yes,
or first round pick, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah. So that absolutely matters. I don't care if you pay Najee Harris in free agency. Like, you're obviously reshaping your running back room, and then you put the cherry on top with your first round running back. So, like, that should be all the sign that, you know, they're wanting to change how things were. And Harris feels like he's almost like Tank Bigsby-ish, where I could see. I mean, I don't know, because they don't have a lot of depth behind him. I was going to say they could maybe make him a healthy and active, but they'd be just eating money at that point. Maybe more wishful thinking, I guess, on my part. But yeah, I think Hampton's the guy right now. And then you're talking about offense that could probably get him 250 to 260 carries as well.
Yeah,
easy. You're gonna see better days out of him. Yeah, I'm very bullish on the opportunity he got in game one.
Yep, I am too. I think this is going to be a fun team to watch. The AFC West is maybe going to be a fun division to watch.
I think it is.
Chiefs are in last place right now, man. Everybody else won this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you've got obviously the Broncos and the Raiders, Chargers and Chiefs. Like, that's going to be a slugfest. Like, it's going to be like first to 10 wins gets you the West.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it's going to be. And I don't think it's the Chiefs this year either.
No, I mean, they've had the stranglehold on the division, but I mean, this could be the year that someone else gets a turn.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we got everything through there. I don't know. We were going through, because obviously the Bills and the Ravens were on. I don't know if we should really talk about that, at least right now, but I can talk about that tomorrow on Clock Management. Come back here at noon. I'll be with Andrew Cooper of Fantasy Alarm, Serious Fantasy, as well, to talk about some of the more interesting angles and the dynamics of stuff that happened in week one. So that'll be a lot of fun. Nate, why don't you tell everybody about in case they don't have our tools at Optimus Fantasy?
Well, guys, we have got some amazing data tools. It's a lot of what we've been pulling from tonight on this show, especially when we're talking fantasy leaders and points. That stuff is up to the minute on our site. So if you want to know everything that happened this weekend and you want to check out who the fantasy leaders are right this very second, head over to tools.optimusfantasy.com through midnight Eastern. Well, actually, it's past midnight Eastern, through midnight Mountain Standard Time tonight. The code WEEK1 will get you 50% off of your first month with our tools. We have everything, including a league management system that will tell you if your team sucks or not, which is always nice to know. It's totally objective. It doesn't know you. It doesn't have any sort of vendetta against you or your team. It's just going to be straight up honest with you. It's always disheartening when I see my dynasty teams with a rebuild grade, but it's better to know and not sit here and think that your team's good when it's not. Now we've got an algorithm that will tell you. And also, guys, I wanted to let you know, if we did not get to your questions on the show, get over to our Discord, head into the show description. We have got a link there. It is totally 100% free. Lou, Kevin, myself, Evan, Carly, Casey, we're all there to answer your questions. So make sure you check out that in the show description down below.
Absolutely. So we're going to get out of here. We'll see you hopefully at noon Eastern tomorrow for Clock Manager. Again, myself and Andrew Cooper. That'll be a lot of fun. For Nate Polvogt, I'm Kevin Tompkins. See you next time.